Zohran Mamdani now facing massive backlash, and rightfully so. He posted an emotional message mourning an accused knife-wielding killer, and now the victim family wants to know, why are you shedding tears for a man accused of killing our son, but you have nothing to say about him? Now, for clarity, folks, investigators say the attack was captured on surveillance video and the footage shows a horrific scene, but the man who was arrested had not yet been to trial. Hence why you hear the word accused, but make no mistake about it, this ain't no murder mystery. And so let's go ahead and get into this. Ugandan Mayor Mamdani says he was saddened by the death of Clarence Woodward, who was caught on camera stabbing a man to death. And so take a look at this post. I am deeply saddened by the death of a New Yorker in city custody at a jail on Rikers Island early this morning. My thoughts are with his family and loved ones as they grieve this loss. We do not yet know the cause of death, but we do know that too many New Yorkers have died on Rikers Island. The Department of Corrections and its oversight partners will investigate the circumstances surrounding his death. Our administration is fully committed to the critical work of creating better conditions in our city's jail system and closing Rikers Island as quickly as possible. And so notice what he didn't say. Nothing about the victim and their loss, only about the fact that another New Yorker died on Rikers Island, because any chance Mamdani gets to be able to undermine law enforcement in any way, shape, or form, Mamdani takes. But you know what? Let's get into the actual footage of the news report from that event, so that way you guys know just how senseless this murder actually was. And somehow Mamdani thinks mourning this individual is somehow a good stance to take. Take a listen.
Viciously stabbed two people inside a laundromat, killing one of them. Video showing cops removing two meat cleavers from the scene. The violence rattling customers at the laundromat
like something straight out of a horror movie. Police recovered two meat cleavers from the laundromat steps. A man entered the 303 laundromat carrying shirts and then carrying out carnage. Police say he stabbed two men inside. Surveillance video appears to show at least one of the victims being removed from the laundromat on a stretcher at around 3 in the morning. Police say one man was stabbed in the legs, the torso, and the back. He died. The other was stabbed in the back but survived.
A surveillance image shows the man police are looking for, his arms full of laundry. Beneath it, he's hiding a knife. Investigators say he used it to stab a man to his right, sleeping in a chair.
I don't know about you, but this kind of stuff matters to me because it shows you exactly who Zohran Mamdani is. And yet you have these radical leftists who they actually voted for this. When met with an opportunity to either stand up for an accused killer or to sympathize and recognize the victim and their family and stand up for law enforcement, Mamdani chooses to stand up and acknowledge a career criminal. And so let's get into this, folks, because there's more. As the family has now erupted in outrage over Mamdani's statements. And so take a listen. Mayor Zohran Mamdani publicly mourned an accused career criminal killer who died on Rikers Island this week, and the family of the victim slain in the sick, unprovoked act is now livid, the Post has learned. His Honor said on X that he was deeply saddened by the in-custody death, the 7th so far this year, as the troubled jail complex, adding that my thoughts are with his family and loved ones as they grieve their loss. The inmate was identified as 41-year-old Clarence Woodward, an ex-con with nearly 30 arrests on his rap sheet, who was found unresponsive in his cell shortly after 5 a.m. Tuesday while awaiting trial for murder in the gruesome 2024 attack at a Bronx laundromat. To the family of the victim, Jose Miranda, the mayor's statement was a slap in the face. It's terrible, his grieving mother, Marisol Miranda, told the Post on Thursday, adding, "That's not fair. That's not fair at all." The Rockland County resident said that the mayor's sorrow was misplaced and should have instead been aimed at her beloved son, a 45-year-old dad of two who worked as a barber when he was stabbed to death. I'm not happy with what Mamdani did, and I need him to talk about my son. He was killed, she said. Angela Miranda, the victim's younger brother, agreed. That's not right. Man right here, the accused criminal Clarence Woodward, who allegedly murdered Miranda. Here goes a snapshot of the surveillance. Woodward was still awaiting trial for the brutal murder when he met his death. He could have paid his regards, but acknowledged us too, Miranda, 41, noted. He should have mentioned us first and then, sorry, the person that did it also has passed away too. At least give us a heads up and a little gratuity towards us. We lost a family member. You can never replace that. I'm still going through it. It has been a slap in the face. His mom said she had been dreading Woodward's murder trial and having to hear what he did to her son in open court. But she said that as a Christian woman, she did not want to speak badly about the accused killer. I leave everything in God's hand. He's the one who can judge, Marisol Miranda said. Woodward faced life in prison if he would have been convicted of murder, manslaughter, attempted murder, assault, and weapons charges in the August 2024 attack at 303 Laundromat in Claremont section of the Bronx. He had been out after a stint in state prison for only about a month when police said Woodward randomly attacked Miranda and another man at around 2:40 a.m. inside the business, which was open 24/7. The homeless parolee first stabbed Jose Miranda, who was sitting in a chair, multiple times in the legs, torso, and back, leaving him mortally wounded, police said. He then attacked the second victim, a 47-year-old homeless man who had been sleeping inside the laundromat, stabbing him in the leg, torso, according to cops. Shocking surveillance images show blood-splattered scene with one man laying in a pool of blood on the floor and the second victim slumped over on a box while the suspect stood over them both. Yeah, and so let's go ahead and pull this apart for a moment, because Mamdani from the very beginning has had this conflict with law enforcement. During his campaign, he was constantly talking about defunding the police, closing down prisons, advocating for criminals. Now, he's since changed his stance on defunding the police, but that had more to do with, hey, in order to, kind of pass your socialist agenda, you can't have chaos and, madness kind of just, destroying the city all at one time, and defunding the police and leaving it for the, basically, as they say, the criminals running the asylum would not be a good way for you to enact your socialist agenda. But make no mistake about it, he wasn't backing off of that out of a desire of wanting to. It just was kind of well, this is what I must do in order to get what I want down the road. Which is why when you see things like this, and Mamdani refuses to hire, in this case, the New York City worker is a New York City police officer who were terminated for not complying with New York City's tyrannical COVID vaccine mandates. And so take a listen to this as he attempts to explain away why he would not be open to rehiring these individuals. Check it out.
Two questions. We have someone on the chat, Marlon Bethel, right? Like yourself, first-generation immigrant, NYPD police officer, rose to the rank of intelligence detective, terminated by the Eric Adams administration without due process, without a department trial, without ever being charged criminally or civilly for failure to take a vaccine. What are your thoughts on that? On your administration, would you hire Marlon Bethel back?
I struggle on this in that I think it is, on the one hand, can absolutely understand the frustration of someone who has lost their job in a time when the city is tearing apart so much of the same policies that were made at the height of COVID, and has arbitrarily decided which ones to keep and which ones to take. I'm right now in the state legislature pushing back against the governor's attempt to ban masks, which would sound ridiculous if I told you that a few years ago when it was illegal to not wear a mask. And to have all of this at the same time, I understand where that frustration comes from. On the other hand, I also do deeply feel the importance of following public health mandates in a pandemic emergency, especially when you're a public worker. So I think ultimately, if you ask me today, would I be hiring Marlon back? I think I would fall on the side of no, because of the concerns around the necessity of upholding that public health mandate.
And that right there is where Mamdani gets it completely wrong. We are talking about an NYPD officer, but it could have been anybody. He wasn't alone in this, right? Who lost their job because they refused to comply with the COVID mandate. Years later, Mamdani still saying he wouldn't bring that officer back. Why? Because apparently questioning one of the most aggressive government mandates of our lifetime is now a permanent disqualification for Mamdani from serving the city. Right? And now, even with everything we know, the mandates are gone. New York City dropped the requirement. The government eventually acknowledged the vaccine did not permanently stop infections or transmission, the way that people were led to believe early on. Even Dr. Fauci later testified acknowledging the limitations of the vaccine against infection and the damage mandates can do to public trust. And so explain this to me. The policies can disappear, the science can change, the government can move on. But individuals like this officer who said no, suddenly they got to walk around with the scarlet letter for the rest of their life? Where that makes sense? That's backwards.
And yet I also don't want to pretend that this is simple or straightforward, because there are so many contradictions. And I think that one of the contradictions that that really stuck with me was how we had a different set of rules for workers than we did for celebrities. And I think what New Yorkers want is consistency. So that's where I am today, but I understand it's not simple, it's not straightforward.
But again, this is not really a vaccine issue, in my opinion. This is a civil rights issue. This is a worker rights issue. This is someone that worked for 2 years prior to this mandate during a pandemic when most New Yorkers were in there and was previously infected and had natural provable antibodies, which the CDC said were acceptable as to had the same level of protection that the vaccine did. This is more of a worker rights issue. So, sitting there and saying, oh, I care about homelessness, I care about worker rights, I care about the middle class, when we see a completely totalitarian dictate come down from a government that made absolutely no sense. Because like you just said it yourself, Kyrie Irving could play basketball, but Maul and Bethel couldn't go to work 2 years later. I mean, to me, it's kind of a hypocritical stance, in my opinion. How, because to me, this is not a vaccine issue at all. This is a civil rights, worker right issue. This set, honestly, New York City back, labor rights back, probably 100 years.
I mean, I hear you, and I understand the contradictions at the core of it. I think my concern comes from the likelihood of, that we could be in a new pandemic and the necessity of following the public health guidance that we put forward in that pandemic. To the places where I absolutely hear you is the contradictions of the guidance that we've been given thus far, what we're continuing to uphold, what we're rolling back. But that's the central core, the tension that I have is, in that moment when the science has us believe that this is the most effective way to counter it, shouldn't we have public workers be the ones who are the first to showcase the necessity of taking that step?
And this brings us right back to where we started with Zohran Mamdani. Look at the pattern when it comes to the police officers who refused the COVID mandate. Years ago, Mamdani had no problem saying, no second chances, I wouldn't bring him back. But when a man who is accused of brutally stabbing someone dies in custody, suddenly we get an emotional statement. Suddenly we get condolences and how Mamdani's deeply saddened. And that's exactly why the family is furious. They're looking at this and they're asking the most obvious question in the world. Where was the compassion for their son? Where was the emotional statement for the man who stabbed their son to death? Where were the words for his mother, his brother, his children who lost a father? Nobody's saying that death at Rikers shouldn't be investigated. Go ahead, investigate it. But leadership is about priorities and it is about judgment. And Mamdani's judgment keeps on revealing exactly whose grievances seems to get his attention and whose doesn't. That's why this story is bigger than just one social media post. It's about a worldview. The officer who defied the government gets no grace, but the accused murder suspect gets a public expression of grief. Tell me how that makes sense. And to the victim's family, that message was received loud and clear. They called it a slap in the face. And after looking at how Mamdani handled it, I can certainly understand why. Those are my thoughts and the update. Now it's time to hear from you. Drop your comments down below. I appreciate when you guys chime in. Smash that like button if you enjoy the content. For more, subscribe to the channel. And as always, until next time.